Geo in Florida. Geo, hello.
Hey there.
Hi there. What can we help you with
great
tonight?
to be on. Well, I'll try and keep it short. So I essentially have two questions. Can I give you a little bit of backstory, context?
Sure, go for it.
All right. So my family, so just to tie off of what Matthew was saying, U.S. culture kind of makes it easy for people to separate from their families in a way, or to have these different like living arrangements. You leave for college and everything. But for immigrants, there are much stronger family ties in a way that kind of force you there, especially for Eastern cultures. My family specifically is Brazilian, but so my parents are missionaries. We moved around a ton. And I've noticed for a long time that my father just kind of uses his pastoral leadership as a mask for his narcissism and to be able to manipulate situations as he wishes.
Well,
He
so many
know
people resonating with my story tonight. Okay, continue. I feel ya.
It's yeah. I've actually taken a lot of inspiration from your story, and there's this thing called third culture kids, which I think it's you're growing up as an immigrant family, but then there's all these things that they bring over, and you essentially are in this different culture, but there's no conversation about that. There's no kind of consolidation of what you want for your life versus what they wanted for your life, and then add religion into the mix, and it becomes this whole like smorgasbord of things to wade through.
Oof, yes.
So I've noticed for a long time my father's abusive emotionally, but in a way, unfortunately, I wish he was physically abusive, because then I could call CPS or something. Like I could just have more of an excuse in a way to separate myself from him. I decided to separate from him about 3 years ago. I'm 26, and that last conversation I had on the phone with him, telling him, he still guilt tripped me, still gaslighted me, and I still played right into it. And then at the end of it, I was like, what the fuck? Who am I? So that was when I knew I just had to stop.
Yeah.
Gio, I want to very quickly, I hate to disrupt where you're going, but I just want to very quickly highlight something you said, because it was incredibly brave, and I'm sure it resonated with a lot of folks listening. It can be super uncomfortable to acknowledge what you're talking about when you say, well, he didn't beat us, he didn't physically assault us, and it can feel kind of gross, I think, for a lot of people to think, well, why would you wish for that? At the same time, I know what you're saying resonates with a lot of people listening. And so I just wanted to give that moment just a second to breathe, because I think that's a really universal experience.
Especially if he's a pastor and a leader. There's almost like, how could he hurt you? How could he have manipulated you? Like,
he's so beloved by so many people every Sunday. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Right. How many souls has he saved, But the story's not so pretty at home, as much as like he never had intimate conversations. I'm convinced he's a narcissist. But anyway, I just really want, there's so much to unpack here, and I don't want to, the question is about actually, one, traumatic sexual memories, and then my duty to my family to kind of help in the healing of all this, if maybe they do or don't even want to heal. My sister's finally realizing how abusive it kind of was. Like, I've always known. I decided to separate, and gladly my mom divorced from my dad, so I was able to continue a relationship with my mother. That's how much it was where I just felt I couldn't have a relationship with my mother until she was divorced from him. And so my sister recently, she's been doing a lot of self-work on herself. She's older than me, so she's had time to kind of go through and a lot of therapy, a lot of and she recently uncovered, like, in her body, this traumatic sexual memory with my father, and now she's like realizing, yeah, maybe I shouldn't be talking to him. And I just, so what comes up for me is like, oh my God, finally someone in my family is waking up, because I have two other siblings who are still heavily religious and still talk to him. And I want to talk about healing, but it comes up against the religion. It comes up against these things. And so when my sister told me about this, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, like, we shouldn't be talking to him. Like, we should not support this man. So I don't want to compete with her. I don't want to compete in the pain, because I didn't have any kind of sexual or anything, but I still felt the emotional trauma. And so I want to understand how we can rely on each other. If you have any thoughts about that. And then secondly, like, should we even try to open our family up to the kinds of abuse? My oldest sister, the other one, has a kid, and I'm seeing kind of emotional patterns in parenting, and I'm very worried for my niece in a way. So I want to have these conversations. I've been looking at Anthony Magnabosco for being able to have Socratic kind of questions, just very unaggressive. But at the same time, you know, if they don't want help, like where do we go from here? You know, because part of it has to do with the religion. So yeah.
Damn. Yeah, I'm gonna sit with this for a minute because it hit kind of close to home. So, Christy, if you want to take this.
Yeah, I think just to say that this is a terribly common experience, which is not to say that it's any less important, any less painful or significant. I think the best advice that you can really start from is just making sure that everybody involved, and that you yourself in particular, are taking care of yourself on a really foundational level. You know, eating, sleeping, exercising, showering. Those things sound so basic, but I have to emphasize how important they are, especially when this old war wound starts to act up, when you start to feel sort of itchy in your trauma center, when these issues are coming up more and more often. That's when you really need to double down on taking care of some of those basic issues. Madison, what else comes to mind for you?
Well, when I'm thinking about, similar to what you're saying, Christy, is just inherently making sure that you're taking care of yourself. And as you're having these conversations with your sister, also checking in with her to see, you know, how she is going with her own therapy, if she feels comfortable enough to be exploring these issues already. And, you know, I think just because it sounds like y'all two kind of have that camaraderie and are having these realizations together, I think even just starting there, digging a little bit deeper, having these discussions and questions with each other and exploring that a little bit more before you open up the conversation to other family members who may be a little bit more resistant. So at least the two of you are aligned and can kind of come at it together with similar perspectives.
Right.
Yeah. And I can't emphasize enough the concept of just being there, just being somebody that your sisters, plural, know they can go to if they need to. But my siblings and I don't talk about my dad very often. It'll come up every once in a while, and we're aware that we have this shared history. And thankfully, everybody is on the same page in terms of, yes, this was bad and abusive, and I'm glad it's over. But I still don't know exactly how they've processed their individual traumas. And I don't know enough about their journey to be the one to broach that. But I have made it clear to all of them that if they needed to talk about something, I was here. And that by itself is something that we weren't afforded in our house, right? Oh, if you need to talk about something, I'm here. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to gaslight you. I'm going to affirm you and respect your experience. So by itself, it can be an immensely healing thing.
Right. Even just having you guys as a resource, honestly, like, just hearing the stories. I think I've said it before, like, this is one of my favorite shows, and I'm guilty to admit I missed out for a couple months just because, you know, what Christy said, like, I'm not taking care of myself. I am taking out a lot of things on myself, and I'm trying to get out of that. And, but just honestly, yeah, it's good to know that I'm not alone in this. And yeah, I will try and lean on my sister. It's a good idea. I appreciate it.
I think it's incredibly worth just highlighting again that there is this human desire, this need to like rush in. We see a fire, we see a problem, we want to fix it. And I get that vibe. I get that instinct. You know, Vi, we've talked about your story a little bit. I know that a lot of that resonates with me. My sister and I are incredibly close. and she will come to me to talk about our father, but it is really more for listening. You know, I've learned after a lot of experiences to keep my mouth shut and to just be there. And honestly, afterwards, I'm absolutely exhausted. It's as if I did run into a burning building. It's as if I did do something dramatic. And by just existing, by just being there and then doing the things that you need to do in order to continue to exist, taking care of yourself, making sure that you have all of your needs met and you have your oxygen mask on so that you're available.
Right, exactly. For you to be her resource is important. That is as much as you need to do. Like you don't need to feel compelled to do more, to fix it, to be there is enough. But at the same time, that is exhausting and that is going to take a toll on you. So you need to make sure that you have people who can be there for you as well. It's like a massage train, except for trauma.
Right. Yeah.
That's a visual. That'll play.
It makes me think, it makes me even more energized to take care of myself, to think like, oh, there's a future that I can help heal. It's like, oh, I can wake them up. But like, yeah, there is this huge desire of me to just shake them and be like, you're hurting my knees. But like, it's almost energizing to know that I have this work ahead of me, and it's not just for myself, but yeah, it does help to think like I'm taking care of myself for this other reason. It almost gives me a little bit more inspiration. So yeah, I think that's something to note too.
Mm-hmm. Also, sorry to belabor this and jump in with one more thought. On the subject of your niece, that's heartbreaking. And I do not have siblings with children, being the oldest sibling. But I can't imagine having to see that happen. So that sounds absolutely draining and terrible. But one thing that you can do for her is thrive yourself. Because if anything, at the very least, if she understands that her life right now is not great, but she looks at you and she knows that you went through a similar thing and you're doing well and you're thriving and you're happy and you're healthy and you're getting the help you need, that by itself is going to give her so much hope as well.
Right.
In an oppressive system, living well is a transgressive act. Take care of yourself. Do what you can.
Seriously. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you all.
Yeah, thanks so much for calling. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for calling in. And call back. Let us know how things go. If you have a conversation with your sister, if you come up against new questions or new issues, let us know.
For sure. Thanks so much. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go meditate after the show.
Okay, good plan.
All right.
Okay. Have a good night.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Very quickly before we jump back into the interview, I think it's worth noting that everybody watching this right now may be feeling some kind of way. There's a lot of folks in our audience that are kind of shaking their head going, yep, remember that happened to me, that happened to me. And, I said it last week, I'll say it again today. We love that you're here, but if you need to pause this and come back to it, if you need to yeet your tablet out of the room so that you can go take a bath, do those things. Be taking care of yourself first and foremost. And if we can offer resources, support, education, great. But we can only do those things if you are okay, if you're calm, if you're rested, if you're relaxed, if your nervous system doesn't have a million alarm bells going off. So I hope that everybody listening right now is taking care first and foremost of those alarm bells before they're worrying about the larger picture.